Hello there friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan, and this video is going to have spoilers from episode 7 of the Acolyte, and if you guys haven't seen it yet, check out my review on that episode. In a lot of ways, I feel like this entire series depends on episode 7 working or not. It's kind of a make or break moment. Okay, let's start this episode. What the hell, Torbin? Like, what in the actual hell were you thinking? Charging into that fortress all by yourself. Taking on 50 heavily armed lesbian witches with bows and arrows, witches that hate outsiders and already think you basically are here to take their babies like Child Protective Services. You didn't even spend time chilling with your team and discussing what kind of buffs and order of attack you're going to take before assaulting this very difficult dungeon. And these aren't just normal children you were trying to steal. These witches were basically using these kids as force batteries of some kind. I mean, everyone is tethered together through a matrix-like thread. You guys hear those, like, matrix stingers every time Carrie Ann Moss is on screen? I find that a little bit hilarious. But are we surprised that Matrix characters actually make amazing Jedi? We gotta bring Keanu into the universe. I mean, it's so clear to me now. Wait, let me try something. Okay, so what was Jedi padawan Torbin thinking here? Like, why did he lose his shit and Leroy Jenkins himself into a heavily armed witch fortress? Even if he managed to get into the building and somehow defeat all the witches, I mean, he actually isn't a terrible fighter, all things considered. Like, Form 3 skills against the arrows, check. The strength to parry a Wookiee, check. And honestly, the discipline to not kill your Wookiee friend while they're berserking, because he probably had openings he could have exploited. But yeah, even if Torbin had somehow managed to win all of these battles, only Osha really would have come along with him willingly. May would have definitely resisted. She doesn't want to go. And honestly, after watching a Jedi Padawan massacre, like, her entire community and her mother's, I don't think Osha would have won either. For her, it would have been like finding out that Homelander is a degenerate adult baby psychopath. And not just a regular psychopath like Superman. The Superman with the CGI mustache thing. You know, I didn't hate episode 7. I actually liked a lot of things about it, but ultimately it was kind of a letdown. And this was actually a big part of the reason why. I know it sounds silly. But yeah, I just couldn't shake this for some reason. Like, I really do appreciate the Acolyte for actually trying to do something different, making a show that isn't just full of member berries, because, you know, that's a trap. When a show gets too focused on the past, when it only caters towards the old original audience, you know, which I'm a part of, but that's how shows die, right? You have to reach out to new audiences. It's just very clear. I mean, you have to pass on the mythology of Star Wars, the values, to the next generation. And you have to update those values so that they're more relatable to the next generation. I mean, every generation has their own fights, their own struggles to overcome. But there are just moments in the show where a character's actions, like Torbin's actions here, are just not really understandable. And here's the funny thing. The funny thing is, when Torbin Leroy Jenkins himself into the fortress, they actually set the groundwork to set this up. I mean, it wasn't just completely out of nowhere, although it felt kind of out of nowhere. I mean, Torbin wanting to go home was a major side plot in this episode. Every time we see him, we're basically being reminded that he wants to go home. I mean, the first time we see this poor kid, he's picking up individual blades of grass and putting it inside of what looks like an intergalactic Jedi juice cleansing machine. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's like a punishment for ancient shallow monks who couldn't find like internal peace. This is torture here. I mean, Torbin is so homesick. He even chances pissing off a Wookiee about his cooking.
I'm just sick of eating Nuna legs. And I want to go home to Coruscant.
And it's clear he's been like this for quite some time now.
I know, but we're on a mission.
We've been here for 7 weeks. And there's no one here, and if we were going to find something, we probably would have found it by now.
This scene reminds me of when I was like 10 or 11 years old and I was lucky enough to go on a family vacation with my aunt's family, and like we just went and did a boring adult sightseeing for like, you know, 4 or 5 days, at which point I just threw a massive tantrum being the little shit I was. And we ended up doing what I wanted, which was ATVing, and my dad like literally rear-ended me. Luckily, my 12-year-old spine took the brunt of the shock. Karma's a bitch. But yeah, that's the vibe I'm kind of getting with Torbin. It's a Jedi Padawan and Jedi Master vibe that's pretty relatable. I mean, some fans, especially the ones who don't read the books, will cry foul, like, this isn't realistic, we shouldn't see Padawans whine and complain. But then again, Jedi do this not even in the books, they do it in the movies. Like, remember Anakin, right? That time when he was appointed to the Jedi Council?
We do not grant you the rank of master.
What? How can you do this? This is outrageous. It's unfair. How can you be on the council and not be a master?
And he was a Jedi Knight. And if you read books like Master and Apprentice, or any Obi-Wan and young Anakin stuff, including in the comics, this was just their dynamic, and this was seen in a lot of Padawan Jedi duos, even between Anakin and Ahsoka. Actually, young Obi-Wan Kenobi used to be a complete hothead, just like Anakin, until he was forced to pilot a ship at breakneck speeds through the inside of another ship. It traumatized him, scared him straight.
Pull up, Anakin. Pull up! You know I don't like it when you do that.
Sorry, Master. I forgot you don't like flying.
You know, a lot of Padawan don't get to survive their get scared straight moment, right? Like, because they're forced onto the battlefield at way too young of an age. Some end up having to fight a roided-out witchcraft-powered Dathmerian, or they get stuck in a wildlife preserve and get hunted down by a bunch of Trandoshans like they're animals. You know, I have to say, a lot of my criticisms about the Jedi are a bit over the top and probably unnecessary. You know, I'm having fun when I make those videos, but a hill that I will die on, and that many Jedi Padawan have died on during the Battle of Jabim, is it's wrong to send children onto the battlefield. I mean, Torbin luckily survived being mauled by a Wookiee. Like, serious respect for that, but why does he actually have to survive this? He ends up being so traumatized by his own actions that he takes the Baresh vow. I think that's like a life wasted before it even starts. It's a tragedy. What separates Torbin from other Jedi like Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin? I don't think it's their skill level. I mean, Master Andara is just as good or bad of a master as Qui-Gon was to Obi-Wan and Obi-Wan was to Anakin. Or is it just up to luck and fate? You know, that's kind of a wild thing to do, to throw a kid out there like that. I mean, Master Andara, to her credit, really does try, you know, to reach Torbin here.
100 years ago, this planet was cataloged as lifeless because of a hyperspace disaster. Yet this planet, Brendok, is thriving.
But if you listen to Torbin, he's clearly not ready. He's still a child. He's still making childish responses.
So there's some plants here. Big deal.
Calm yourself, Padawan.
You know, sarcasm can lead to the dark side. It's a sign of immaturity. It shows a person that's unwilling to deal with their emotions in a proper way. They say that sarcasm is the cousin of jealousy, insecurity, and ultimately anger. Which, of course, leads to the more poorly lit side of the Force. They got soup. But I think Torbin, I mean, I read it as turbine. This is why I keep mispronouncing it. It's not Turbine, it's Torbin. I always get these names wrong. I'm not doing it on purpose. I have, like, some kind of... I'm just an idiot. I mean, we did a full breakdown of Jackie before, who was far more prepared than Torbin. But as a Padawan, she also lacked experience and temperament for a life-or-death struggle and was kind of lulled into a trap by Chimera. I mean, this might specifically be an issue with the High Republic Jedi. Simply put, it just wasn't as dangerous as during other periods of time. And so maybe you took Padawans who weren't ready for battle onto the battlefield. Maybe a lot of these Jedi Knights weren't even ready for stuff like this. I mean, it's clear during the Kofar incident, most of those Jedi did not know what they were doing or what they were up against. And if you look at the way Torbin thinks about his job, he's kind of childish. It's almost as if he believed what the recruiters told him when he was 1 year old and taken away from his, parents.
But if only I knew that what we were doing was somehow important or meaningful.
And now he's disappointed to find out that being a Jedi is like 99% boredom, and 1% of the time you're fighting for your life against a Wookiee. So Sol and Andara go on to explain that this planet they're on is incredibly important because somehow it revitalized itself after a very cataclysmic event. It's kind of a miracle in the Force. That information alone should make this mission pretty epic. I mean, 7 weeks in the woods, is that really the worst thing you've ever been through, Torbin? Now, Sol and Andara take two different routes to try and wake Torbin up to the reality of the situation they're in. Sol tries to encourage Torbin by explaining that their cause is noble and worthy, whereas Andara wants Torbin to make peace and come to the realization that everything a Jedi does is worthy. And she basically just tells him to touch grass again. In the long run, Andara is probably right. I mean, learning how to deal with your boredom, learning how to, find kind of, not necessarily excitement, but just Be cool with doing boring, mundane things because that's your job. You know, ikigai, a path to lifetime fulfillment, right? But I don't think it works here. I think most people, when they're at this age, they just want excitement. They want to be chasing women. Well, Jedi can't do that, but, you know. I mean, there's a lot of talk of increasing the age of military service from 18 to 21 in the States. There are many reasons why 18-year-olds are allowed into the military.
Hey, Joker, why did you join my beloved corps? Sir, to kill, sir! So you're a killer? Sir, yes, sir!
We have boot camp and other ways to filter the more mature from the children, but I think ideally most combat soldiers should be much older, at least in their 20s, or heck, people are in their prime physically by their mid-20s.
You write born to kill on your helmet and you wear a peace button. What's that supposed to be, some kind of sick joke?
No, sir.
When they have much more life experience, which puts them in a better place to decide whether they're okay with the things that they're being asked to do here.
I think I was trying to suggest something about the duality of man, sir.
The what?
The duality of man, the Jungian thing, sir.
You know, life or death situations, guys. It's not really fair to put children in these moments. I mean, a lot of countries, depending on how their militaries are set up, actually depend on reserve forces. You know, badasses who are willing to drop whatever they're doing at the time, whether it's changing a diaper or changing a transmission out of a car, changing a kidney out of a person. There's a famous scene in Band of Brothers where Sergeant Carwood Lipton climbs a tree just a few days after landing on Normandy, and he lays down fire on a German 88 and a machine gun nest. I don't remember if it's in one of the interviews or Stephen E. Ambrose's book, but Lipton would go on to say that he would have never done this if he had more experience, and that this was just stupid for him to do because leaves and branches are not cover. You know, older men who have survived their own stupidity, who have more things to lose, they're going to have better control over their emotions, and they're going to already have learned how to deal with and even appreciate boredom and lulls between the actual busy work and action. You know, just read a book, Torbin, or, learn how to braid a Wookiee's hair. I'm sure Kelnaka would appreciate that. And that's why it's morally better to deploy older men rather than deploying younger men onto the battlefield, let alone children and teenagers. I mean, Jedi Order, what are you thinking? It's clear that despite Master Indara and Jedi Knight Soul's best intentions, Torbin's mind is still on home. Despite all the crazy things happening around him, he just can't get his mind off of this. I guess I've never been that homesick before, so I can't relate, but it just seems unreasonable. But yeah, when Mother Anastasia violates Torbin's mind, it's so clear that the only thing he's thinking about is Coruscant. He misses home. Perhaps this is his first mission away or something like that.
I want to return to Coruscant.
And it's clear that Mother Anastasia is going to use this against him, his emotions. I mean, at least Jedi Knight Soul's emotions are about another person and attachment to a child he wants to rescue. Now, part of me really wonders just how much of an effect does Mother Anastasia's, mind trick here have on Torbin. I think for one reason or another, the mind meld doesn't just leave him when he regains consciousness. Instead, it infects him with a thought. An idea burns so bright into the back of his mind, it's almost as if Leonardo DiCaprio and his team of dream thieves have kind of burrowed into his head and given him inception. And I don't know if Mother Anastasia had this in mind when she did this to Torbin, but the whole thing backfires against her. I mean, he's the reason she dies, ultimately. When it's revealed that May and Osha have a high midichlorian count and a DNA profile that seems to indicate that they were created artificially, maybe by emergence, Torbin just kind of connects the dots in his head and he's like, yup, this is what I'm doing now.
This is it.
Torbin! Stop!
Like, no, Torbin, no, that is not it. This is funny and absurd all at the same time. And it also felt so random. Like, yes, they're building this up, but why? Why? Even despite all the buildup, this makes no sense. He's not some crazy person, or is he? It's got to be the witch magic, right? Now, if you take a look at our review for episode 7, we go into detail how they expertly lay down the character motivations for Indara, Soul, Mother Anastasia, Coral, May, and Osha. It's all done very neatly, Again, it's like watching that raid team figure out the perfect strategy to defeat the final boss in the dungeon, but then suddenly your dwarf hunter's pet bear named Spike just wanders into that last room and aggroes everything, and all hell breaks loose. And then as a result, Torbin feels so terrible, he just disengages with society and ends up suiciding because he feels so bad about all of this. I mean, he was just a stupid kid. Maybe it was the witches, but it just doesn't add up to me. Anyway, let me know in the comment section below what you guys think, and as usual, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button down below so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. As usual, my name is Alan, reminding you that my allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy. See you next time.